Some mysteries fade with time, details blur, witnesses move on, and public attention slowly shifts elsewhere. But a rare few cases refuse to disappear. They linger in police files, media archives, and the minds of those who study them. This is one of those cases. It begins not in secrecy, but in plain sight. A crowded bar, security cameras, dozens of witnesses, a young man with the future carefully mapped out. And yet, by the end of the night, he was gone. This is the story of Brian Shaffer, a medical student from Ohio whose disappearance on April 1, 2006, created one of the most perplexing closed-loop mysteries in American true crime history. A case where evidence exists, but answers do not. For nearly 2 decades, investigators, journalists, and amateur sleuths have asked the same question again and again. What really happened that night? Let's start. Before Brian Shaffer became a headline, he was simply Brian. Born in 1978, Brian grew up in Ohio in a middle-class household. Friends from his early years describe him as confident, sociable, and easy to talk to. He had a natural ability to connect with people, a trait that followed him into adulthood. Brian was not withdrawn or isolated. He enjoyed music, nightlife, and travel. He had a wide social circle and maintained close relationships with friends from different stages of his life. Academically, Brian was accomplished. He earned admission to the Ohio State University College of Medicine, a demanding and competitive program. Medical school requires discipline, endurance, and long-term planning. Brian had already invested years into this path. In early 2006, Brian was nearing the end of a challenging academic quarter. Exams were completed. Spring break was approaching. There was a sense of relief and anticipation in the air. However, beneath the surface, Brian had recently experienced profound personal loss. Just weeks before his disappearance, Brian's mother passed away after a battle with illness. Those close to him acknowledged that the loss deeply affected him. Investigators would later examine this detail carefully, considering whether grief played any role in what followed. But grief, while powerful, does not usually lead to vanishing without trace, especially not under the circumstances that would soon unfold. April 1, 2006. Saturday night in Columbus, Ohio. The area surrounding Ohio State University was alive with activity. Students filled bars and restaurants, celebrating the end of exams and the arrival of spring. Brian met up with friends earlier that evening. They moved between locations, socializing and drinking. Witnesses later described Brian as relaxed and in good spirits. There were no arguments, no visible distress, no signs of urgency. Security cameras at nearby locations recorded Brian laughing and interacting normally. Nothing about his behavior stood out as alarming. As the night progressed into early morning hours, Brian and 2 friends made their way toward one final stop. At approximately 1:15 a.m., they arrived at the Ugly Tuna Saloona. The Ugly Tuna Saloona was a popular student bar located on the 2nd floor of a commercial building near campus. Access required climbing a set of stairs from the street level. On this night, the bar was crowded. Music echoed through the space. People moved shoulder to shoulder. Conversations overlapped. Alcohol flowed freely. Inside, Brian became separated from his friends. This was not unusual in such an environment. Witnesses recall him speaking with several individuals, including women he had not arrived with. At one point, Brian was seen using his phone. Investigators later confirmed he placed at least one call during the night. At 1:55 a.m., surveillance cameras recorded Brian entering the bar area. This moment would later become one of the most scrutinized timestamps in the case. Because it marks the last confirmed visual evidence of Brian Shaffer, the Ugly Tuna Saloona was equipped with security cameras positioned to capture the main entrance and exit. When Brian was reported missing, investigators obtained the footage and reviewed it carefully. Every individual seen entering the bar that night was eventually captured, leaving, except Brian. He appeared on camera going in. He never appeared leaving. Not minutes later, not hours later, not at closing time. This created what investigators refer to as a closed-loop scenario. A person enters a defined space monitored by cameras, yet never exits through any recorded route. Law enforcement reviewed the footage repeatedly, frame by frame. No sign of Brian leaving through the main entrance. This single detail transformed the case from a missing person report into a national mystery. The building housing the Ugly Tuna Saloon was undergoing renovations at the time of Brian's disappearance. Temporary walls, service corridors, restricted construction zones. Investigators considered whether Brian could have exited through an alternative route unseen by cameras. They mapped the building in detail. They examined stairwells, service elevators, and emergency exits. They interviewed construction workers and building staff. Each possible path was evaluated. None produced evidence. No witnesses recalled seeing Brian in restricted areas. No security footage supported an unrecorded exit. No alarms were triggered. The building itself offered no explanation. Brian arrived at the Ugly Tuna with two friends. Inside, they became separated amid the crowd. When closing time approached, the friends assumed Brian had already left with someone else or gone home. They attempted to contact him. No response. At the time, this did not seem alarming. Brian was known to stay out late. He was an adult capable of making his own decisions. It was not until hours later that concern began to grow. Brian did not return home. Calls went unanswered. Voicemail picked up. By later that day, his absence was reported to family members. When efforts to locate him failed, law enforcement was contacted. Brian Shaffer was officially reported missing. In missing adult cases, investigators must first consider voluntary absence. Adults have the legal right to leave without explanation. But several details quickly challenge this assumption. Brian left behind personal belongings. His vehicle remained parked near his residence. There was no activity on his bank accounts or credit cards. He had academic and personal obligations approaching. These factors suggested that Brian did not plan to disappear. The investigation escalated. Have you ever heard the story of a man who walked into a bar and simply vanished into thin air? This isn't a magic trick. It's the chilling true story of Brian Shaffer. What's even stranger is that the entire bar was covered by security cameras, yet no footage ever captured him leaving. So, where did he go? Brian was last seen on camera entering the Ugly Tuna Saloon in Columbus, Ohio, on April 1st, 2006. He was with friends, celebrating the start of spring break, but after he was separated from his group, he was never seen again. He walked in, but he never walked out. Let's talk about his phone. Investigators found that after he arrived at the bar, his phone went silent. No outgoing calls, no texts, nothing. In 2006, cell tower data wasn't as precise as it is today, but even so, the sudden lack of any signal was a huge red flag. His phone became just another piece of a puzzle with no solution. Police launched a massive search. They scoured every inch of the surrounding area: construction sites, alleys, dumpsters, even rooftops. The nearby Scioto River was searched multiple times, but they found nothing. No wallet, no phone, no clothing. It was as if Brian Shaffer had ceased to exist. As the weeks turned into months, the case exploded in the national media. Everyone was asking the same question: how can someone disappear from a crowded bar, surrounded by cameras and people, without a single witness? Tips poured in, but every lead went cold. Investigators considered every possibility. Did he slip out? An unrecorded exit? Was there an accident? Did he decide to run away and start a new life? Or was someone else involved? Every single theory hit the same brick wall: a complete and total lack of evidence. The case of Brian Shaffer remains one of the most baffling and haunting unsolved mysteries of our time. What do you think happened? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more unsolved cases. No evidence. Brian's father remained vocal and hopeful. Years passed without answers. In 2008, tragedy struck again. Brian's father passed away. He never learned what happened to his son. Why this case still matters? Because it happened in public. Because it challenges assumptions. Because it exposes the limits of surveillance and investigation. He was never seen again. No confirmed exit, no confirmed destination, no explanation, only a question that refuses to fade. What really happened that night?